Right, folks, welcome back. We're talking about baldness on this episode. Have a guess why? My guest today is Harry James. Harry is the creator of Bald Cafe, which is a podcast, YouTube channel, and online community which aims to help guys around the world to be bravely and confidently bald. He's also the author of the ebook Bald Cafe, Guide to Going Bald and Being Confident, which I believe is a free ebook people can get on your
Absolutely
website.
Free, yeah. Go read it on the website, download it from the website, 100% free. Great place to start. If anyone's out there struggling with it, don't know where to turn, that's a great place to start.
So it's not purely a vanity project, this. I mean, well, no, it's not purely. It started as a vanity project. So the reason this episode idea came to mind is, where are you based actually, Harry? I know he's in China at one point, but
I was in China, but I'm back in the UK now, down in Southampton.
Right, okay. So like me, you'll have been in lockdown for 6 or 7 weeks now or something like that. Well, we've been in. I started panicking and seeing my ass about 2 weeks before the official lockdown. So we're coming on like 8 or 9 weeks. I pulled my kids right out of school, and I got my last haircut at the barber's about 2 weeks before that. So what's that? 10 weeks since seeing a barber. Now, as you can see, I mean, I've had this conversation with my barber plenty of times, and he's like, "Stop fucking panicking. Your hair's fine. Like, there's still plenty we can do with it." But it's, oh, here we go. So this is what we're dealing with here. The hairline is making its way all the way back here, and I've got this thing going on where I class it as a comb over, where this bit here is false. I pull, so the hair, it goes back here, but on this side I pull it forward to bring
a bit more coverage.
Yeah. And then at the back, I don't know if we can see this here.
How's the crown looking? How's the crown?
Can we see this here?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah. So it's just getting worse and worse. And the thing is, for bald guys, especially when you're having these hairstyles like I've got, which is that it's purposefully designed to reduce the baldness, I guess. You're styling it. Yeah.
You're going bald, yeah.
Yeah, you're styling it to try and cover things up and that. And so you have to keep on top of it. I have to go to the barber, say once every at least 4 to 6 weeks to sort of keep on top of it. And then when it starts getting longer, it seems to have the opposite effect of what you'd think. Like, you'd think that the more hair you've got to play with, it'd sort of cover it up better. But for me, keep trying to style it in the mirror and shit every morning. Like, when I've been to the barber's, it takes me 5 minutes. But when I've not seen him for a while, it takes longer and longer to deal with it. And especially when it blows in the wind, I look like fucking Donald Trump in that famous picture of him next to Air Force One where his entire hair's blowing up in the air. Yeah. And I'm just getting to the stage now where I've got to be honest, I think it's quite pathetic to be clinging on to your hair like this, especially for a guy. There's something, for me, very sort of unmasculine and vain about, I'm going bald, and
it's a difficult one, isn't it? Yeah, it's an interesting internal battle, that one, and I can relate to it. Like, as you mentioned before, before we started things, talking about mental health, and I talk a lot about, when you're having this problem, who should you speak to, or do you even feel like you can speak to anyone? And it's just an interest, when you probably brought up, not all out there with your feelings with everyone, and to have this sort of sense you feel insecure because of something like your hair, it just seems wrong. It seems like, why? Often that question, why am I feeling like this about this hair? Why am I worrying about this? Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult one. It's definitely a difficult one. And I can relate to that 100%. Yeah, that worry, why?
Well, I think from all the little bits of research I've been doing about it, I think when guys are worried about going bald, I think, for all the various reasons they're worried about it, what women think, what other people think, I think it's all fairly misguided. That's the conclusion I've come to. But we're going to see what conclusion we come to by the end of this conversation as well, because
Sure.
I want to go through the various reasons why it knocks guys' confidence, what women think of it, the various things you can do about it. Should you do anything about it? All that. But before that, I think we should go into your story a little bit, because
Sure, yeah.
when I first stumbled across it was your channel on YouTube. And you're pushing something like 50,000 subscribers or something like that.
Yeah, we just hit 39,000,
Yeah.
so we'll be at 40 soon, and hopefully 50,000 soon. Yeah.
And I was thinking, it's so interesting that you managed to build up a community just based around this. It seems like such a niche topic. And to be fair, that seems to be the clever thing to do nowadays with whatever channels and projects you've got, people have got going on, is to go niche, because in an audience of 7 billion, niche can still get you an audience of 50,000.
Yeah.
But I mean, before you get to that stage where you've got 40,000 subscribers, I'm wondering what the impetus was for you to start a channel about it. It's one thing to get paranoid about it yourself and go away and research it and do something about it, but then to start a channel, and especially one that's so niche that maybe when you first start it, you think there's maybe not so much room for growth with a channel like that. So what's your story a little bit?
So with YouTube, so I before I'd started Bold Cafe, I was actually doing another YouTube channel. I decided, so like you said before, I was out in China. I was teaching English there, and I'd gone a few years after university. I'd gone out there to sort of, different experience, kind of get out of my comfort zone, and see what the world had to offer, sort of thing. I had a lot of free time, so I was doing a lot of reading, a lot of, I don't know, you call it self-discovery, but I had a lot of free time to think about, what I wanted to do. Anyway, I read this book. I'll try not to make this story too long, but I read this book, $1 Billion App, right? And I said, right, I am going to build the next, massive app.
Yeah.
I'm going to build it. Didn't know how to code, nothing. So I started to learn, and I thought, right, if I'm going to release this app, I'm going to need an audience, right? I'm going to build an audience. And then when this new app is ready, boom, I'm going to share it with them. Instant downloads. So I'd been on YouTube for about 6 months, and all I was doing was reviewing apps, right? Now, during this time, my hair was falling out. So my hair, before I started Bold Cafe and before I decided to shave it, it was about, I want to say 9 or 10 months, which in the grand scheme of things for a lot of guys is quite a short amount of time, from finding out I was losing my hair to deciding, you know what, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm just going to shave it off. Quite a lot of ups and downs during those, 9 or 10 months, but it was a relatively short amount of time. And I stumbled on this app where it basically gave guys the opportunity to Photoshop themselves, maybe a nice beard, maybe style your hair differently,
right.
Some tattoos, make your muscles look bigger, give yourself a six pack. You've probably seen those adverts, if you've been flicking through the app store or anything. And I just thought, what the hell is this? I was looking for apps to review, and I was like, what is this stupid app? And by this time, by the way, I'd already shaved it off, right? So just, we'll just get to why I started Bold Cafe, and then we can talk more about the actual hair loss, I guess. And so someone commented on a friend of mine from university commented on my Instagram or something. They said, oh, when are you going to review the app that gives you your hair back? Very tongue in cheek, just a joke. And I thought about it, and I thought, that's funny, but I'm reviewing these apps. I should actually talk about my own experience with losing my hair, kind of intertwined with this app, right? So basically, long story short, when I was making this video, I said, this is just complete bullshit. If there's a guy out there who is feeling like insecure about a certain aspect of his body, something like this, trying to cover it up or change it, it's not real, is not the answer. And then I just sort of talked about my own experience with losing my hair and how I decided that similarly, trying to sort of cover it up and run away from it in a sense, and trying to bury my head in the sand and trying to avoid it, just wasn't getting me anywhere. Over those months, it just didn't make me feel any better. And the only thing that actually did make me feel better about it was to really dig deep and have that conversation with myself. Like I said earlier, why do I feel so insecure and ashamed that my hair's fallen out? you know, because I never felt like that before when I had, you know, when it wasn't. And I just wanted to share that message, you know, to people. And I said, look, this really worked for me. I was losing my hair, and I just had to kind of decide, like, am I going to continue years and years of, you know, different products or different, you know, hairstyles? My thing was, I would constantly, I didn't have a specific cut, but I grew it out a little bit longer, and I just would not stop playing with the hair around the crown, you know, because I was trying to get that even coverage, you know. And I just, all the time, every hour, every gust of wind, every time I was sat in my class, just playing with it like this to try and cover it up. And I'd forget about it for 5 minutes, and then I'd do it again. And yeah, and I eventually just kind of decided, you know what, I'm done with this. I cannot continue years and years of fumbling around with it and trying to hold on to this thing. I need to just go with it. This is me. This is what the future's going to hold. I'm going to lose it eventually. So why not cut to the chase now? And I went with a shorter cut, eventually shaved it off, and I just felt fantastic. I never looked back. And I, just as I'm talking now, I kind of got really passionate in that first video, the first time I sort of spoke about my experience with the hair loss. And I guess people on YouTube, the few people that watched it and identified with it, kind of, you know, they could relate, and they could, you know, hopefully see I was genuine. You know, I wasn't making any of this up. This is what worked for me, my own story. And people commented and got in touch and said, you know, thanks so much for just talking about your experience with it, you know, honestly, and putting it out there into the world, because not a lot of people are doing that. And I feel like, you know, I'm the only one dealing with this. You know, I'm a young guy. I was 26 when I shaved it off. And there are guys, you know, younger than that or same sort of age. And they said, you know, I'm so glad there's someone else out there talking about this, because I've been struggling to deal with this myself for years, you know, or for ages. And I feel like I can't talk to anyone about it. And it really, I don't know, something just, I just thought, I just got to go all in with, I just got to do more of this. You know, like you just read out then, that sort of little slogan, if you like, you know, help guys out there, as many guys as possible, go bold, bravely and confidently. That was day one. You know, I genuinely just wanted to help as many people get through it the way I sort of did eventually. And it just took off. You know, I had already enjoyed making videos, and I just continued to go with it, and different topics, and people would ask for different topics. And the feedback was brilliant, quite honestly. And every time I got a message, you know, saying, just, you've really helped me, you know, thank you so much. You know, now a lot of guys are saying, you know, I decided to shave it off as well after, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 8 years of hanging on to it and struggling with this thing that I thought I could never deal with. You know, literally, I shaved it off. I listened to your advice, and I've never felt better, you know, and it's insane, quite honestly, just so many people now. And it's, it's honestly just my biggest passion, and I love it. It's just great to be able to help people like that. And I'll continue to do it for as long as I can.
Well, a couple of questions sort of arise out of that. So the first thing is,
sure, yeah.
Well, I guess we'll go with this one first. So, you see, it's one thing to go through a little bit of a struggle and figure out what the best solution is for you, and then to go ahead with it, and you're all solved or whatever. But to decide to make a channel out of it and say you want to help people, that can only be, surely that drive can only come from it being an experience that really fucked with your head, because you know, you're making it sort of sound like, you know, a little bit conscious about it, and I'm playing with my hair and stuff like that. But
I mean, of course, you know, it's been...
So to what extent? I mean, what we're talking about, how badly did it fuck with your head?
So I've, you know, growing up, I was always confident, very confident. You know, I was the guy in class, in school, right, who's doing their presentation? I was first up there, you know. I don't know where that came from, but I was always like that. I was very talkative, even with the teachers, everything, very outgoing, very talkative. I had my insecurities, you know, I was quite overweight and things like that. But I think I got through those at a young age by, you know, with a bit of humor. I like to crack a joke and just talking a lot. You know, I would maybe overcompensate. I'm not sure, but it built genuine confidence in myself. I did a lot of public speaking. I did loads of things. I joined the police force for a bit during university as a special, and that was, crazy. Again, built my confidence. Went off on my own to a random country, didn't know anyone. And I'd done a lot of things like that to build my confidence in myself. And when my hair started falling out, I just never felt like that before. It was just completely different. And I cannot explain it. I cannot explain why it makes people feel like that. It could be the fact that, from a young age, as you grow as a young man, as you're getting, you're getting taller, you're getting stronger, wiser, building more relationships, everything's on the up. And for a lot of guys, as was the case with me, my hair falling out was the first kick in the nuts, if you like, of the first reminder to say, yeah, it doesn't keep going like this forever and ever.
Existential, yeah.
There's a peak, or not necessarily a peak, but nothing lasts forever. You are human, what goes up does come back down. And that was the first little crack, little chink in my armor maybe. And yeah, it was just going at the crown here. And I actually discovered it. The video, in fact, is on my YouTube channel. I filmed it the very moment I saw it. I was filming another video. As I said, I was making different videos, and I went to pick something up off the floor, and it filmed the top of my head. Because of course you don't look at the top of your head,
right,
going around like this all the time, just by chance. And I watched the video back, and there was this little, I could see my scalp through the hair, and it was really, and then it all started to click. When I was in China, when you shower, there's no heating, right? So they have these hot lights over the shower. And for the last sort of I want to say 6 or 8 months, it felt like these lights were getting hotter and hotter and hotter on the top of my head, Yeah. And now, of course, I know that it was because the hair was getting less and less, and there was nothing to sort of absorb the heat. It was going straight to my scalp. And all these things started to click because I was naive as well. And I thought that when your hair starts going, it starts going here. Your hairline will start receding, right? So, but my dad is bald, right? My dad's bald. And every now and again, once every 6 months or once every year, I would check. I would pull my hairline back like that. And I would just say, right, how's it looking? And it was fine. No signs of any receding. It was lovely.
Well, on that, let me just bring this up a minute, Harry. So,
Sure.
Well, you don't mind me bringing up your Instagram, do you? Because there's some pictures of you with hair there. So,
go for it.
Let me do this screen share here. So, we see this here. So, that's...
Oh, yeah, this is my actual Instagram, yeah.
So, wow, I mean, that's June 2017, so that's only a few years back. And to me, that looks like a perfectly healthy head of hair, especially the front.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and
will we go in a bit bald at the back already then?
So yes, this is about the sort of time, 2017, when things start happening. Yeah. And it's unfortunate, really. I'm lucky to still have that video, right, that I mentioned, but all the pictures that I took of it, because when these pictures here, yeah, it's going here. My hair at the crown is starting to thin here. Right. You wouldn't know it because I wasn't about to put a load of pictures of my receding hair on the internet. Right. So you'd never see the crown here. You're never going to see it, But yeah, here it was absolutely going. And I was one of the biggest fears I had. I don't want to get off topic, but one of the biggest fears I had was someone pointing it out to me. That was probably my biggest fear during that phase, set aside that it's going to look terrible, my girlfriend's going to dump me, all those things. I was so terrified that someone's going to come up to me and be like, oh, excuse me, you're losing your hair, because I don't know. I was ashamed of it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want anyone to embarrass me, in front of other people. I was working in this school. I had colleagues, kids, and I was just so afraid that someone was going to be, laugh or point it out that I was losing my hair. And only one person ever did, and that was my nan. I went to visit her, and again, I think I picked something up off the floor or something, and she said, "Oh, Harry, you're going bald," and she was laughing because all of her sons are bald. Didn't think of it. Oh, you're losing your hair too, like everyone else,
Oh, nans don't give a shit, do they?
Nans don't care.
Yeah,
no.
my nan. Well, my mum's at nana age now, and she'll just be like, "You're putting a bit of weight on now, aren't you?" They don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, they don't at all. She didn't hold back. But that was the only person that ever noticed. But yeah, it was, I don't know where we were before I mentioned my nan, sorry. Back then you wouldn't know, looking at and like I said, no one else ever pointed it out. And this is something, it's interesting when I do these videos and speak to people one-on-one, I've come to learn that it's really not about how much hair you have left on your head. Once you know that it's going, once you know that you're losing your hair, it's just that seed is planted, it's there, it's happening, it becomes a thing in your life. And of course, it's at different extents. There are people who have hardly any hair and they're not asked, they're not bothered. It is what it is. I've made peace with it. I'm just this is me doing this with my hair. That's it. And they're fine. And that's brilliant. And there are guys, like me and how I was, where it was hardly noticed. People didn't notice it. But I was always conscious of it, always worrying about it. It was always in the back of my mind, right there on the back of my head, always there, just constantly thinking about it. And I just couldn't get the thought out of my head. And I've got no idea why it was like that. But
well, the thing, you see, I think you've sort of touched upon what I think is the main driving force behind it. And I don't know if you're being hyperbolic at all, but you said, I'm worried if my girlfriend's going to dump me.
Yeah.
Was that a legitimate concern?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. You saw there me with hair, right? And the environment in China, I was a bit of a novelty item, white guy,
Yeah.
6 foot tall, decent. I was going to the gym, this isn't me blowing my own trumpet. People would tell me I had, that nice haircut, short on the sides, that look, that handsome look. And when I got with my girlfriend, that was the look. And people would say, oh yeah, your boyfriend's really handsome, and oh, handsome foreigner, this and that. And I was lucky, I didn't have a big ego about it or anything. But they, especially in China, they care a lot about appearance. You must know this whole thing of, face, having face, and appearance is high up there. It's like we have it here, I'm sure. The people who look the most rich are actually not very well off at all. They're putting up that appearance, putting on that sort of facade almost. And I just thought, wow, I've got this look and it's going to go. I look like how I look now, and I'm very accepted like that. And I know that isn't going to be the reality any longer, or not any longer, but even if it was 5 years, 10 years, I didn't know. But the fact was, it was going, it was going that way. It was always headed that way. Of course, I have my dad as an example. He lost his hair really young, I think 22, 23, something like that. Super bold, rocking the horseshoe. And so I knew that was the way it was going. All the guys in my family were bald. And yeah, very valid concern. I thought, my girlfriend, who's, I think we'd been together for more than 6 months or something. But I was just afraid that I couldn't keep up that appearance any longer. And I was in fear, that she was just going to, dump me, I guess.
Yeah, you see, I can understand that being like a legitimate concern for younger guys, especially. And you were saying you were about 27 at the time or whatever, and like you're supposed to be in your prime and that then. But then I think, so I'm 38 next. I'm pushing 40 years old. I've got a missus. We've been together for over 10 years. I should probably know the exact timeline without getting bollocked. 12 years, something like that. Got 3 kids, and it's like, I'm not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere. No one's trying to shag a 38-year-old man. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're out on the scene trying to pull all the chicks or anything like that. So for me, that makes it feel even more pathetic. It's like, who are you trying to impress? Because I could have a full head of hair. I could have Harry Styles sort of hair. No one's looking at me.
So what about your situation then? Is it a worry for you? Is it a concern, or or are you just, because you seem quite relaxed about it?
Yeah.
But you've had a really, let's be honest, 38, you've had a good innings with the hair, genuinely, you've done well to get this far. And you obviously, you're rocking the beard, and it must have been quite a slow thing for you, a very gradual receding, right? I think that
Well,
is a thing. I
yeah,
don't know if it's
you know what? I've always had shit hair, so I wish I wish I could have found some of them. I've always been someone that's avoided the camera, which I sort of regret, because there's no pictures of me from back in the 90s when I was a teenager and stuff. And but I've always had a bit of a shit hairline, especially at the front. That is it called like a widow's peak or something like that?
Yeah.
I've always had that shape.
Like a little,
yeah, even when I was like 15, I remember there's one photo of me that my girlfriend at the time took, and I remember looking at it at the time like, oh my God, am I losing my hair at 15? I don't think I was. I just think I always had a shit hairline, and it's always been dead sort of thin and wispy, and you can't really do much with it. And so for me, it's not like what, I used to have this like big Elvis booth on one day, and then I'm no longer got that. But I do think for me, there must be some sort of existential element to it. Because I'm getting to that age now where I look in the mirror and it's like, oh, fuck me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're seeing wrinkles and your skin starting to look a bit leathery and stuff like that. And it's like, God, the last thing I need is me hair to be going as well. But that's what I mean. Genuinely part of this reason for having this conversation with you is trying to figure out what it is that's holding me back. Because there's been plenty of times it's become a bit of a cliched line at the barbers. Every time he pulls the mirror out and he's going round and we get to the bald spot, I'm always like, fuck it, it's getting worse. That one of these days I'm going to walk in here, I'm going to see my ass and say, just shave it all off. I've been using that line at the end of every haircut for the past 2 or 3 years. But there's clearly something that's stopping me from doing it, and I can't figure out what it is. And like I say, for me, I'm sort of trad conservative guy. Do you know what I mean? And I'm wedded to traditional ideas about masculinity, and so for me, it feels genuinely a bit pathetic. It's like, what are you doing? Like I just said, no girls are after you, and even if they were all banging the door down, I'm not leaving my kids for some little tart now. Do you know what I mean? I'm settled. Yeah. And so there's no reason for me to not be doing it. And so I'm like, is it existential? Is it vanity? And I don't like either of those things. I don't like either of those, that either of those are a possibility.
It's one of the biggest, out of all the guys I've spoken to, all the literally thousands of conversations I've had, the biggest trend is just worrying about what other people will think, So if I think think back to me when my hair was falling out, I think, right, is my girlfriend going to dump me? That's me worrying. Is she going to find me attractive anymore? So right, okay. I was thinking, can I be successful, bald? Will I get a job or something like that? That's so stupid to think. I'm not going to be able to get a job because I've got no hair. But when you're in that situation, I was, that's what I was genuinely sort of talking myself into, like, oh, you're not going to be able to be any kind of success without hair. And again, it's worrying what other people are going to think of you. How are they going to perceive me? Am I going to go on a night out and someone's going to, point and laugh at me for being bald? Again, I'm worrying about what people are going to think of this look. And that's sort of the big umbrella, is this worrying about other people's reactions, friends and family. And it's literally every guy that gets in touch, they'll say, I've struggled with this for 2 years, 1 year, whatever. I want to pull the trigger. I want to shave it off, but there's something holding me back. And I'll say, right, okay, what do you think that might be? And every time it comes in, I'm worried about what my parents are going to say. I'm going to college next year. I'm worried about, how other people are going to perceive me. Are they going to want to be friends with me? Or how's dating going to be? That's huge. Do women find this look attractive? Am I destined for failure with the ladies or whoever, men, whatever, because I've got no hair? And again, like you, quite honestly, I don't know where that comes from. It could blame the media and celebrities just always, getting hair transplants. I need to do a video tomorrow about the whatever trashy newspaper reporting, oh, David Beckham, he's losing his hair, looking really thin. The guy's 45 years old and he's like, of course, that's not news. That's very normal. you know, for a guy like that to be losing his hair. But the fact that it's in the news, like it's some like crazy thing, like, whoa, why is this shouldn't be happening? And it combined with, you know, men not really talking about it, you know, like you said, a man's man, you know, a lot of guys still think like that. They don't want to be saying to their girlfriend, oh, can we sit down and talk? Like, I've noticed my hair's falling out and I feel really shit about it. You know, guys don't want to go to that space, you know, that vulnerability. They don't want to get vulnerable like that. But unfortunately, that was one of the things that helped me. You know, I kind of had that conversation with myself. I reached out to a few, it's funny, I reached out to a few friends, you know, but my way of, I knew they were going to take the piss. You know, I knew they were just going to take the piss. But it was a genuine, to be honest, it was a genuine cry for help. You know, I didn't know who to talk to about it. I was feeling that bad about it. I used to kind of moan to my girlfriend about it. And she would say, well, why don't you get a hair transplant? Well, we'll look at this. Like, you can get hair systems and stuff. And I'd be angry because I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's no way. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. But I would still continuously moan to her that my hair was falling out. And that was, I think, you know, we spoke before. One of the questions maybe is, or we mentioned why, you know, I was worried my girlfriend was going to dump me. There was way more chance of her dumping me because I was constantly, you know, going. It wasn't fun to be around because I was constantly going on about my issues like that. And when she offered a solution, I would just snap back at her, you know, And, you know, I think a whole combination of these things. I really lost my train of thought then, by the way, because I get quite passionate about it, but I can't remember the original point I was trying to make based on why we feel like that, right? Why we sort of worry.
Well, I've got a sort of interesting theory that I've picked up in the past about psychology and sort of the attraction between men and women, and one of them is that apparently with birth control, ever since the advent of birth control, when women take birth control, they no longer have the menstrual cycle, and so they don't go through that period where they're ovulating, where they're at the most fertile. And some studies have shown that when women are at the most fertile, they find more masculine men attractive. So, you know, if you show a woman the sort of the same face, but with a different jawline and a different, like a different brow ridge, whether it's more prominent or not, when women are more fertile, they'll tend to be more attracted to the bigger jaw and the harsher brow line. So more masculine traits and things like body hair and beards, big shoulders, things like that. And because a lot of women are on birth control, they never have that cycle. They're almost like they're never in the mood for a masculine man anymore. And so as a result of that, men in society in general are forced to cater to
feminize.
To feminize themselves, because that's what women are going to be more attracted to generally when they're not ovulating. Now, again, we're speaking in generalities, not everybody's going to feel this way, of course, but I do think it's interesting that men's fashion was very sort of consistent for, you know, maybe a couple of 100 years. Guys always wore suits, and the guys had facial hair, and there was, you know, what you'd consider sort of traditional masculinity. And then fashion has sort of become, men's fashion has become feminine. For me, the idea of guys spending loads of time in the gym and looking at the muscles and you know, doing their hair and primping and preening their eyebrows and then fake tan and stuff like that, those to me are very feminine traits. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily in a disparaging way, because if it's up to the, you know, it's a fucking jungle out there. It's hard for guys to get girls. And so you have to do whatever it takes. I mean, you really have to do, you're up against so much competition. And, you know, if I've always said, look, if it went that way that women started liking guys like wearing a bit of pink lippy and a tutu or whatever, back in my 20s, I'd have been like, bollocks to it. If that's what you want, I'm up for it or whatever. And so it's a bit of a catch-22, that one, because even if you're not necessarily, you don't necessarily want to feel that way, it's in your, you know, you don't want to feel paranoid about going bald or whatever. It's sort of in your best interest to be paranoid about it and to do something about it, because especially if women in general nowadays are more attracted to feminine traits, going bald is a wholly masculine trait, and it almost, almost kicks you. You're almost going to get kicked out of the gene pool as a result of it. So, well, that's my little theory anyway. Speaking
it's an interesting thought. I absolutely there are things like that at play. I think I think again, you touching on the whole social media and Hollywood and things like that whole side of it. We had a discussion recently actually about just this sort of perfect image, like how you described this, like new sort of perfect male image is everywhere. You see it everywhere now. And just like they did in the women's space, with this whole body shaming and things like that. You remember I mentioned quite recently, do you remember when the whole size 0 thing was a big, very big, like women, the pressures to be size 0, and that went on for a few years and they sort of rebelled against it. And there just isn't that sort of thing that goes on in men, in this sort of arena of men, because we're just not that advanced yet. There are guys who say, oh, you should, why are you worrying about how you look and things like that? Just stop worrying about that and just get on with it, sort of thing, But at the same time, you're being pulled the opposite end of the spectrum by maybe like how you said, of feeling the pressures to have that feminine look and be able to connect with that side of it. And it's an interesting time, it's an interesting time. And this whole thing about, like I described then, when my girlfriend suggested to me, oh, why don't you get an operation, the hair transplant, or take this pill, or, wear a wig. And I just felt this rebellion against that sort of thing. Like it, one, because that would never be, the real me. I knew that it's not a cure, and I know this is one of your questions, sorry, but I knew there's no cure for male pattern baldness. And I stuck to that. And I said, no matter what I try to hold on to it, I'm never going to be able to get back to that point where I've got this perfect hair. Nothing I can do can get me back to that. And so I just looked forward in a sense of like, how do I accept this? This was a big thing for me. I wasn't looking so much of how to hold on to the hair or how to keep, everything intact. I was very much looking for, how can I accept this, and how can I move past it really, and not sort of look back. Those are the answers I was looking for out on the internet. And there are a few guys talking about it, but nothing big. The loudest voice was all of the transplants and the take this drug, and oh, this celebrity's had this hair transplant as well, and so you can get it done in Turkey for really cheap, and it's really easy, and you should just do that, and all your worries will be taken away. And it just didn't sit with me. That whole side of it just did not sit well with me. And so ultimately, that's why I sort of chose to just shave it off. I know I went on a bit of a tangent there on the original question, but this whole manliness aspect of it, and I have to be careful with my channel, because in a nutshell, my channel is, hey, if you're struggling with your hair, you need, the best thing you can do is accept it, shave it off. It's out of sight, out of mind. Crack on with all the stuff that you're bloody good at and just leave it in the past. It's shit. Yeah, it happens. Crack on. But, that sort of information these days is just not accessible. Some people will respond well to that sort of information. I did, because when I asked my dad, hey dad, my hair's falling out and I feel shitty about it. Well, I didn't even say that. I wasn't really prepared to go that deep into my emotions with my dad. I just sort of said, my hair's falling out. How did you accept it? When yours did? And he literally just said, there's nothing I could have done about it. I just had no choice. I just got on with it, and very, straight to the point, very blunt. But I think I knew he was right. I knew it was right. And I seen that it worked for him. And so I just went all in there. But obviously with my YouTube channel, I want to be able to help as many people as I can. And I want to be able to give the guys who, when they first jump online and they first look for maybe how to hold on to it or things like that, they're just to kind of open them up to this whole idea of there is another side to it, because when your hair starts falling out, you never think for a second, oh, there's going to be a time where I can genuinely be happy having shaved it off, no, zero hair, and be absolutely loving life. You think that is literally impossible. And so I'm trying to shout and speak to the guys that are still in that frame of mind. They're still thinking like, no way. And so when I make my content, and I really try to deliver it in a way that is going to sit well with all types of people like that, so they actually listen, and they think they can actually be open to the idea of, oh, maybe this guy is right. Maybe I could do the same and be happy with it. And as they, dig deeper and listen to some of the advice, the stories, a lot of them eventually get there, and it's fantastic. But I couldn't, it would be wrong for me to just say, listen, you need to man up and shave it off, and just shave it and you'll be absolutely fine. It just, that would for 1% of people that would work no problem, and that's brilliant. But I wouldn't be able to achieve what I want to like that.
Right. Well, anyway, let's we got a bit sciencey a minute ago, and I do want to go into the science of it somewhat. We probably should have covered this a bit earlier, but bollocks to it. So do you know much about we don't have to go too in depth with this, but do you know much about the science of why this shit happens in the first place?
So sorry. Yeah. I kind of, but carry on. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I'm gonna start. I've got a bunch of tabs up here from doing a little bit of research, and I'll bring these up, and then we'll just have a bit of a natter over each one, I guess.
Sure.
So, okay, I better be plugging everyone as I go along here. So, Men's Health Forum. This is talking about the science behind it. So let's have a look at some of the stats here. What's the risk? So what's the risk of going bald? 2/3 of all men will eventually be affected by male pattern baldness. In the UK, that means 7.4 million men are losing their hair at any one time. There are racial differences, interestingly. However, in the incidence of male pattern baldness, the highest rates are found among Caucasians, no shit, followed by Afro-Caribbeans. Chinese and Japanese men have the lowest rates. And then for some unknown reason, this form of hair loss does not occur among Native Americans.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it brings you to, it brings the evolutionary question in, which we'll get to in a moment. And then it's the other one. Male pattern baldness runs in the family. If your grandfather, father, or brothers went bald early, the chances are that you will too. The strongest influence is on the mother's side. So if your maternal grandfather went bald, that's probably a better indicator that you will too than if your father's father lost his hair. You see, people who listen to this podcast on a regular basis will know I was adopted at birth, so I haven't got a clue about my genetics or anything like that. I don't know what horrendous cancers or brain tumours are waiting for me around the corner, so I didn't have any indication of going bald. Can you relate to that last one?
Yeah, absolutely. So literally every man pretty much in my family has gone bald.
Oh, right.
So literally both sides of the family. Now I don't know if my mother's father had hair because he died pretty early on, but certainly my mum's brother, she's got two brothers, both of them bald. My dad bald, his brother bald, and my grandfather was bald.
You had no chance, did you?
So it was always coming, it was always coming. I to be honest, like I said to you, my dad lost his at 21, 22, I think it was. And so when don't forget, I'd got to 25 with everything intact. And I was thinking, I've done it. I've beaten it. I'm past that age. This is me. I've got hair. I'm a winner, and it wasn't long after that I saw, oh no, wait a minute. It's happening. So it was a bit of a punch in the gut, quite honestly. Yeah.
Right. And then,
I can relate to that.
Yeah. And then the causes. So there's only a tiny grain of truth in the myth that bald men are more virile because they have, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a bald men are more virile because they have more of the male sex hormone testosterone. The idea probably grew out of the observation that eunuchs never became bald, and having been castrated, they didn't, of course, produce very much testosterone. So blah 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 blah. Oh, so it's due to dihydrotestosterone. This stimulates the growth of facial and body hair as well as acting on the prostate gland. There's good evidence that male pattern baldness results from an oversensitivity of scalp follicles to DHT rather than raised levels of either sex hormone in the blood. Right. Okay. That's a bit of a shame that one's been dispelled then.
Yeah, not super high levels of testosterone, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then this article from the week. So this is about the evolutionary reasons why bald men are still around. Because you'd think if bald men were ugly and unattractive, and women are looking at them, and see, this should be some reassurance for guys. Because if
100%.
yeah, if women just found bald men unattractive, you've been weeded out of the gene pool. But there's go on.
Not even unattractive either. It's people see baldness as an illness, as they say, they call it, this horrible condition or whatever. But it's no more. It's the same as having green eyes or blue eyes. It's just your genetics. If it was generally this horrific disease that was terrible, it would have been weeded out through natural selection, like as it kind of describes there. One, through women not being attracted to it, therefore not breeding with guys without hair. And two, it would just have killed off all the bald men if it was unhealthy for you, so yeah.
So I'm just going to go through these very quickly. So these are four reasons why bald men never went extinct. So this is from the Week website, which I've had to get the cached version because you had to sign in otherwise, and I can't be arsed with all that nonsense.
Right.
So
yeah.
So one, baldness signals maturity and gravitas. Balding men are associated with wisdom and nurturance, says Frank Muscarella and Michael Cunningham in the Journal of Ethology and Social Biology. Granted, they are also seen as older and less physically attractive, but here we go. Longevity in itself is an attractive trait in a mate. Yes. Empty. What's that word? Pates? Pates? Pates.
Pates, I think.
Pates. Empty pates protect men from disease. Oh, okay, interesting. So this sort of linked to what we just mentioned. Everyone agrees that male pattern baldness exposes a relatively large skin area to sunlight during everyday activity. While this may sound like a risk factor, baldness might well be a finely tuned mechanism evolved to protect against prostate cancer, since studies show that absorbing solar ultraviolet radiation and vitamin D helps prevent this particular disease. Prostate cancer not only kills men early, but also interferes with reproduction. That's relatively it's a relatively convincing one from a Darwinian perspective. It's a billboard for vigor. Another theory is that baldness actually signals dominance and status. The idea here is that a bald pate serves as a sort of advertising board for emotions, in particular the red flush that accompanies anger. We know that with other animals, red is often the colour of dominance, so an angry bald head would be read by sexual rivals in a wordless but very clear statement of "don't mess with me." Now, you see, that rings true as well, because there's, you think of bald guys, you think of like Jason Statham and Vin Diesel, and these are sort of tough-looking guys that a lot of...
or your doorman. Think about when you go out on a night out, or your doorman, bald.
And there's a decent contingency of women that are sort of exclusively attracted to that sort of guy.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so again, bald guys, that's another thing in your favour. And then 4, baldness has nothing to do with evolution. Sorry, depilated men, but there isn't an evolutionary advantage or disadvantage in male pattern baldness. It's just one of those things, according to Susan Deal in Britain's The Guardian. And it sounds like a journalist, and we know what to think of those people's opinions. Most men start balding after age 30, and in the scope of human history, that's past the usual age of reproduction. No, I'm not going with that one, because that's not true. Men can, as we know from some of these aging rock stars, men can carry on having babies into the 70s and 80s. So that doesn't...
30 is almost like a starting point for most men.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it is.
For having babies,
Oh, this one was a bit of a brutal one to find. So this is in Science Daily.
Let's have it.
Oh, why do shorter men go bald more often? So basically, in summary, short men may have an increased risk of becoming bald prematurely. An international genetic study at least points in this direction. During the study, scientists investigated the genetic material of more than 20,000 men. Their data show that premature hair loss is linked to a range of various physical characteristics and illnesses. So, that's nature being a cruel mother, or whatever you'd like to say. Because you're 6 foot, aren't you?
6 foot, yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm 5'7". I tell everyone I'm 5'8", but it's pathetic. 5'7". No, it's no.
That's average, isn't it? I think that's bang on average.
It's not great. Let's be honest. So here we go. This for me
it hasn't.
Go on.
Just on a quick note. Yeah, as you mentioned, your life where you're at now, right? That held you back?
The thing is, Harry, I'm very confident around women. I was lucky in the sense that, again, old listeners will be like, oh, going on about this again. But I spent from the age 20, 21 up to my early 30s, I was working in and around the sex industry as like a chaperone for girls that were either escorts or worked in the adult industry. And so being around predominantly women, being around in a very sexual environment all that time, women just aren't a mystery to me. I've got no fear of women whatsoever. It's just not, it's never been a thing. And so I don't know whether it's confidence that's come about as a result of that. Because I think to a certain extent, confidence often with men it's an affectation. It's a technique that they learn and they learn to apply it to women. Whereas, and that plays into the power dynamic between men and women. You know, women tend to like a sort of a dominant guy, a guy that's going to take charge. You know, women tend to date up in value status, across or up in value status. Yeah. Very rarely will a woman date down in value status. So it's very rare that you'll find a female CEO who's, you know, dating the cleaner or anything like that. Whereas
women marry up, you know. I've heard that before.
And so for me, I'm not so sure whether it's confidence around women or just that women have had all the mystery stripped away. And so in all my engagements with women, it maybe comes across as confidence. That natural dynamic is there anyway, because it's like, I know everything about you fuckers. There's no fascination there for me anymore. I never put women on a pedestal, and it's always sort of worked out for me in that sense. Yeah. And so, again, but that comes back to, you know, it makes it even more interesting that why this has become
a thing.
Yeah, become a thing for me. So again, my hypothesis is that the main driver behind this is an evolutionary one, and it's based on sexuality and attraction between men and women, maybe even between men and men. I don't think either of us are in a position to comment on that.
No, I mean, I've spoken to quite a few guys in that sort of community, and it's almost the same, to be honest. Like, there are guys who absolutely love it. You know, it's a real thing for them. And there are other guys who like that sort of more feminine style, and they're very fearful of going bald. It's almost like the same, really, from my limited, chats with those guys. But yeah.
Right. So this one is from Skullshaver, skullshaver.eu. Yeah. So this is what do women find bald men attractive? So if we get to the research here, so this is a survey that they've done, I believe. We've recently surveyed 1,000 women to figure out the answer to this question. What should one work on to rock his bald look? Let's see what women's advice is. So, I mean, look at that. You look at 46%. The majority of women say, what should a guy work on to rock his bald look? And it's confidence. And that's just so telling. You've got 46% is confidence, 36% is a beard. Interesting.
That's an easy answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and then plummets all the way to 12% for a fit body, 10% tattoos, 8% fashion, and then 6% say bald rocks by itself. I think that's very telling, and that sort of speaks to what you were saying before about the interactions that you're having with your girlfriend. Is when you start getting a bit whiny about it and showing or spending too much time demonstrating, when you're demonstrating your insecurity, like we've just said, if you're demonstrating insecurity, you're projecting insecurity out into the world, you are actively bringing down your status in a woman's eyes. If women date across or up in status, there's few things that you can do worse than project out into the world that I am not a confident guy, because the ramifications of that are, it's not just that necessarily, I'm not just lacking confidence about the way I look, but are you going to lack confidence in traveling the world? Are you going to lack confidence in going out and getting a job and being a provider? Especially, if I'm going to be having kids with this guy and he's not very confident, can he hold a job down? Can he look after me? Can he look after the kids? And yeah, I just think, and if
you've nailed it.
And if you look at the disparity between those percentages, the 46% for more confidence and 12% for the fit body. And I can imagine it'd be a thing for a lot of guys where they think, shit, I'm going bald, so I need to compensate physically in some other aspect, and so I need to go and hit the gym. And when most women I'm sure, fine, get a nice body or whatever, nothing wrong with that, but just sort that confidence out.
Yeah, it's like you just said, you absolutely nailed it. This whole thing of when you're indecisive and you're struggling with, when you're losing your hair, which is very much the situation I was in during that sort of 8 to 9 months. It's not attractive. You're not secure in yourself. She's thinking, if I want a future with you and we're going to be, I don't know, buying a house and getting work and things like that, can I rely on you to actually make those important decisions when you can't make one here? And that is what I found, and what so many guys find when they do go, down the route of shaving it off. It is, it's 100%. You've committed, you've done it. It's all out there. There's no, you're not hiding from anything. It's your true, genuine self. It takes a lot of balls to do it. And it's a big decision, and it really, really shows, and it commands so much respect. And then you take it up another notch. And I advise people to do this, is when you do it and you go into work the next day or the next week, whatever, and someone says, "Oh, you shaved your hair off," don't be the person who says, "Oh yeah, it's just a new look," or I just thought I'd try something new, almost giving yourself a little safety net to back out in case they say anything like, "Oh yeah, it looks terrible." And then you can say, "Oh, well, I'm just trying it." It's
right. Yeah, totally.
When you can go there and be so secure in yourself that you can say to that colleague, "Yeah, listen, my hair was falling out and I felt so shit about it. I was tired of, all the creams, all the gels, all the haircuts, all the powders, all of that stuff, all the hats, that I just decided, you know what, I'm not having this, sod it. I'm shaving it off. This is me now. I love it. It's clean. It's easy. It's a great look. And this is going to be me now." And people are just almost blown away by that level of confidence in yourself and that security, because you've told them that you had this big insecurity, and you're right there in front of them, living proof that you've completely overcome it. And people are so respectful, and it's a brilliant feeling when someone can say to you, like, "Wow, you're like, fair play, I wouldn't have the balls to do that. Like, I'm really pleased you're happy. It looks great." And it gives you so much confidence going forward, because again, it's all out there. There's no secrets. You're not hiding from anything anymore. You can just fully commit and just run with it. And that's always my advice to people when they go for it. Yeah, just be decisive and just commit, and watch how well other people respond.
Well, let's keep going, because there's even more encouragement to come here. So what is women's attitude towards bald or shaved-headed men? Do women like bald men? So for the question, do women like bald men, the overwhelming majority of women gave positive answers. Negative answers are 12.5% versus 87.5% positive answers. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. It's very with questions like that are very sort of abstract. I think when you say to women, "Do you like bald men?" And then I think women, you tend to immediately think of Brad Pitt when he shaved his head in Fight Club and things like that. And so it makes it easy to go, of course I love bald men. Or Jason Statham, bald with his big muscles. And it's like, of course I like bald men. So that's not so convincing. But some of these quotes here from users from Quora and Reddit. So according to all the information my adolescent brain had available, the baldest man I knew was, for reasons completely unrelated and peripheral, the most compelling example of manhood ever. One girl saying, "When did hair become criteria for judging a man? There are several other things to worry about." Winky face, whatever that means. As long as the man likes his style and carries it off well, how does it matter if he is bald or sports a mohawk? What makes you hot and likable is your personality, not just your hairstyle. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then this is an interesting one. So this is the characteristics that women tend to be attracted to. And it's social, material, and physical. So it's the spread tends to be 40% social, 40% material, and then only 20%
physical.
20% physical is what women are attracted to. And the material there, I would argue, it doesn't necessarily, again, come down to how much money is in your bank account. It's going to come down to status and things like your ability to hold down a job, your ability to be a provider and a protector. And again, you know, I used to be women listening to this thinking, I don't think about shit like that. But I think, again, speaking in generalities, I think these are true. And also, I think a lot of it's happening at an unconscious level as well. So, so there you go. Men's characteristics women are attracted to expressed in percentage is only 20%. So there you go, guys. You've got other shit to work on. Moving on. So I wanted to go into some of these. Let me just stop sharing this for a minute. So I wanted to go into some of these treatment options, and I'm curious whether you tried any, either in a genuine attempt to get the hair back, or whether it was just something you maybe did for the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I want your opinions on some of them, because I'm going to be very candid about my opinions on some of them. Some of them I'm fine, whatever. Others I think are veering into the realm of desperate, I think, and I would be feel very remiss to recommend them to anybody. Okay, so this is the total cover plus hair system. So I wasn't going to bother with bringing up wigs, because wigs are blatantly ridiculous, and rarely do they look.
Wigs,
And I mean, if you go on Google, there are various wigs, literally, that you just pull on and that you can take off, that are that for men that are getting as good as the ones that women can wear. But I just, in general, I don't think they're quite there. What do you think?
I think wigs are outdated now. You know, they have been really overtaken, I think, by the hair system, which we were about to talk about. You know, I think wigs, there was a time when that was really the only sort of logic, the only sort of real solution that was available out there. You know, as times have moved on, there are, if you could argue, better ways of covering it up. And I think the hair system is the new sort of wig, really. Yeah,
right. So let's have a closer look at this one. So it's basically so this guy's got hair like that, and then with the hair system, it looks like that, which I mean, it looks pretty good. You know, I have to admit, it's not bad.
No,
I don't know if it's because it's in such high definition and so close up that for me there is a slight artificiality about it, but not something that you'd be able to detect without close inspection. But there's a video, I think there's a video down here that sort of that demonstrates how it's done. So it's basically they shave all the middle of the head, and then they glue this hairpiece to the scalp. And then style it, but it's sort of it's a semi-permanent solution, I believe. It's not something you'd whip off and on.
No, it lasts about a month, I think, or some people can even make them last for about 3 months.
Right, and you can shower in them.
You can shower. They say you can shower, you can swim and whatnot, you can exercise. And some people, different for everyone, but some people can even do this stuff themselves, or some companies do it on a sort of subscription where you buy the hair system and you can go back for maintenance every sort of, however often you want, really, every week or every month, whatever you choose. And they sort of peel it off and shave the hair underneath it, because obviously you've still got a bit of peach fuzz. A lot of people do. They shave that off and they've sort of re-stick it on. But my where I stand with sort of hair systems, I think there's a guy, I don't know if you know, he was, his name's Paul Bowen, and I've actually had him on my podcast. He was known for a long time as the Lad Bible wig guy. When Snapchat was a big thing, he did a Snapchat story where he got this new hair system, right? And he was very much the first person to be out there in the world online saying, like, this is a wig, this isn't my real hair. And he sort of went all out with it. And he sort of was proud of the fact that he was wearing it like that. And I think if you can wear a hair system, or a wig hair system with that level of confidence and be out there and open with it, that it is not your real hair, then by all means go for it, because you're not hiding from anything. That's your truth, But if, again, this is a sort of you're feeling really anxious, really, sort of down about your hair falling out, and you try and sort of cover that up with something like a hair system, but you don't want anyone to find out that it's a hair system. You don't want anyone to notice, it's a sort of secret. That I fear that isn't going to do anything for that worry. You're just replacing the worry of your hair falling out with now the worry that someone's going to know you're wearing a wig.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
And so that doesn't solve the issue of that worry around hair loss, because, again, the real issue with the hair is it's not how it looks. Your hair looks great. I'm not asked about your hair. If I see you in the street, I say, Danny, what do you do? Where are you from? What, not, oh, Danny, let me check your hair. Oh, you're receiving it.
Interesting, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so, it's again, when you're losing your hair, it's very much about how does it make you feel? What are you worrying about? How, mentally, it's such a mental thing. It's not necessarily like, how's my hair looking? And, I've spoken about this on a few other things. Again, with these sort of treatments, if you like, or cover-ups, there could be an argument for some guys, maybe they're quite young. They put this hair system on that allows them a bit longer with this sort of full hair look. They might give them the confidence to go out there and sort of, I don't know, discover themselves, where their true confidence lies. And that could help them, might even get them to the point where they're not asked and they just whip it off and they shave it because they've, that's given them that little safety net to deal with it. But as a sort of long-term solution to hair loss, unless you're just fully out there owning the fact that it's a hair system, I think it's a bit of a dangerous, in that sense. If you're just using it to cover it up, I think it's not necessarily going to work long-term.
Yeah, and just looking at the prices here, so two options: a flat rate of £169 per month plus a stylist charge.
Crazy.
And then pay as you go. So I'm guessing pay as you go is £359. So that's you pop in whenever you feel like it and get one done, or you can subscribe. £169. I've got to say though, some guys are going to be, especially in city centre salons, guys are going to be paying close to maybe half of that just for a
haircut.
Yeah, just for a decent haircut. So price
not cheap though, is it?
No, it's not. Oh, definitely it does. And, just to give you an idea of how forgiving girls are on this front, I was talking to my missus about this. I showed her this hair system and said, I said, what would you think of me if I got that? And she was like, I'm fine with it. I was like, you'd be okay with me wearing a glued on wig? And she's just like, yeah, fine. Yeah. It makes you feel better, whatever.
Yeah.
So, again, girls are very forgiving about this sort of thing. Now, this video I'm going to bring up now it's equal parts incredible, but also for me this is veering into the tragic. So this is the hair fibers.
Yeah, I think I saw your tab, so I know what's coming.
Oh man, right. So hair fibers are the sort of believe the sort of static. Do you know what they're made of? I should probably look this up.
Is it keratin or something?
Okay. So
something like that.
We'll go with that. Static keratin granules, and they're basically in like a pepper pot. And you can sprinkle them on your head. And if you've got like a bit of a bald spot at the back, I could probably get away with it with the bit that I've got, and it just covers up that bald spot. And again, so for something like that, not so bad. But for this video, it's the volume coming through there. I'll turn that off. We're not going to play the video the whole way through, but I mean Harry, let's be honest, right? Let's not
look at the views, by the way. Look at the views.
Oh, the views is insane. And so this is Jason Mackey's channel. 2.8 million subscribers, but 55.3 million views on this. Now,
nice, yeah. This is crazy, this one. I actually did a video.
Let me just get your opinion on something, because again, you have to be sort of, especially because I'm sat here pissing and moaning about it, right? So there has to be a certain amount of sensitivity to this subject, because for some guys it's a real problem. But there's certain levels of when this male pattern baldness kicks in where, for me, it's just like, just fucking shave it off. And with this, when I see guys with this sort of thing, and when they've got comb overs where you can blatantly see the bald anyway, and it's a comb over, You know, the sort of the very postmodern subjective opinion on that would be, it's none of your business, right? People can do what they want. Fine, I understand that. But do you think there's a limit at which people are not doing themselves any favors, where people are going to talk about them, and where the fears are going to come true, where girls are going to look at that hair and it is objectively going to make you blatantly physically less attractive, and so just fucking sort it out?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned just at the front there, where you're not doing yourself any favors anymore, you know, where it's gotten so bad, the logical step is just to shave it off. And I think that luckily, it's strange, there seems to be in this sort of hair loss world an acceptance, even amongst that community, where they are trying to hold on to it and use all the treatments, where there is actually a point where, you know, enough's enough, you know, that there's nothing left for you to do. You just need to shave it off, you know. And certainly because it would just look, you know, in the grand scheme of things, amongst what most people consider attractive, it would look way better. You'd look much younger, you know, just smarter and cleaner look, shaving that off. And the video we just saw there,
well, I'm going to play it all. I'm going to flick through it in a minute to show the actual process. Yeah, but go on.
Sure. But yeah, it's again, like you said, I don't know what the person might be thinking. You know, they might look at that and think it's fine. You know, I've still got hair. There's still something I can do about it. I think that's a big thing for people. You know, maybe they haven't tried all of the I don't know, natural remedies, or they haven't tried all of the stuff that's out there, and they still kind of cling on to this idea that if they try this next thing, it's going to get their hair back, or they're going to, I don't even know, feel better about the hair that they've got. A lot of people are always looking for that next thing, that final bit of hope, you know?
Yes, we can see the process here. Sorry, audio listeners, it's a very visual episode this. You're going to have to bugger off over to YouTube to get the full effect of this one. I've got to say, just for, you know, from a skilled barber perspective, it's very impressive what this guy's doing. And then the end result, I mean, let's just skip. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, already, you know, it's looking a lot thicker. The final result. So
there's your before and after, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is genuinely impressive. But you see in the title here, it's Wedding Day Surprise. So this is a guy getting his hair done for his wedding. And for me, I'd just say, you know, if you have to have hair and it's for your wedding, I mean, fork out that 350 quid for the glue-on hair system before you do that. Because I mean, the sad thing about that one is what's he going to look like in the morning? And he's going to go back, you know, on his wedding night, he goes back with his wife, and he's going to look amazing with his hair, and he's going to smash her all over the bedroom, and then he's going to fall asleep, and his entire head of hair is going to be on the pillow in the morning. And again, his wife's going to wake up to that, and it's just not a good look.
No, I think in that situation, like you said, 100% would have been better off with something like a hair system, you know, 100%. Of course, I'm biased, you know, if you're in that situation, it would have been even better just to shave it off, because the whole concept is weird. When I saw that video, right now, I actually think that this guy is selling something, you know, right? And so I think that's why that video exists, you know. Of course. But could it be if it was a true story, and this guy genuinely is? So you saw him before. That's how he looks normally, right? And then just for one day, he wants that sort of, you know, that hair look, like he's got hair just to get married. And you know, all the comments, there are people in the comments, I think it's great that he wants to look nice for his bride on his wedding day. But that isn't him, you know, that isn't what he looks like. Right. It's kind of like a facade. So, you know, my argument would just be ballsy, you know, and be yourself, shave it off and impress her that way, you know, I think it would be far more impressive. It's nice for 5 minutes. Oh, you look nice in the wedding pictures, but then that's not the real you. And it's funny, actually, I didn't mention about my wife. I'm married now. So that girlfriend I was worried was going to dump me is now my wife. But even after I shaved it off, she would say to me, oh, but you're going to grow it back for the wedding pictures, right? I said, absolutely fucking not. I was like, this is what I look like.
And that's confidence. That's a perfect example of confidence.
I was like, this is what I look like. When I was like, right, this is how I'm going to look forever now. This is it. So, and I said, look, listen, if you don't like, if that's not what you find attractive, if that's not what you're into, then I'm not going to hold any grudges. If hair or a man with hair is that important to you, then go and find one with that, because that is not me. That is not me. Never going to be me. And obviously, she wasn't like, oh, okay, yeah, see, I like hair more than I like you. But I think I fully committed to that, and I was serious as well. I wasn't just like, oh, well, if you don't like it, go with hair. I was genuinely serious. I gave her the option, and obviously she didn't have any problems with it, and I think it probably did in her eyes, me saying that actually I did myself a favor. I did myself a favor there, because I was showing like, look, this is me. And this is who I am, and I'm confident in that. I'm going with it. And I don't, it did myself some favors, 100%.
Right. Final two treatments here. One is Rogaine. Now, these pictures are quite impressive.
Oh, I really hope. Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Some of like that guy in that last video, I don't think Rogaine is going to do him any favors. But
no,
for these guys that are just thinning a little bit, it does seem. I mean, that's especially good, that one. And then whether or not Rogaine works, because obviously you have to be skeptical about whether or not it's all sales pitch, but. So according to clinical studies have shown that Rogaine can effectively regrow hair in some people. In a large clinical study that led to the 1987 approval of Rogaine, 40% of men had moderate to dense hair growth on the crown of their head. In a one-year observational study, 62% of men using 5% minoxidil reported a reduction in hair loss. As for regrowth, the drug was rated as very effective in 16% of participants, effective in 48%, moderately effective in 21%, and ineffective in just 16%. So, again, we know from this podcast that sometimes even the clinical literatures can't be fully relied upon. But
no.
I'm interested in what your experience of it with, whether you've ever tried it or just the guys that you've spoken to, whether they've found much success with it.
Yeah, so I thought the percentage was about 40%. I've heard, 40% knocked around that it can regrow, somewhat of a decent amount of hair. But for the people that I've spoken to with Rogaine, using Rogaine or minoxidil, same thing, it leaves your hair very greasy. You get like white flakes with it. Obviously, you've got to put it on twice a day. And it allows you to hold on to that hair for a little bit longer, a few more years. If you respond well to it, yeah, absolutely. Basically, what it does best is it allows you to hold on to the hair that you currently have. It can regrow some, but it doesn't regrow, a ton of hair. And it certainly won't get you back to perfect hair, before it started falling out, which is what a lot of people are after, because again, if it allows you to just hold on to the hair that you've kind of got, you've still got that worry that you're going bald. You are balding. It's still happening. You haven't sort of cured it, and it also becomes less effective. Over the years, it starts to become less effective, and then once you sort of stop using it, I link it to those films. What's a good one? Where there's like that old woman character who turns into, eats some fruit and turns into a beautiful princess looking woman. And then, the spell breaks and she crumbles into the old granny she was before.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's like when you stop taking it, all the hair that you would have fallen out anyway, just sort of falls out, and you go back to square one. So you got to keep using it. Again, it's not cheap, and it's just not the cure that a lot of people want. But can it allow you to hold on to your hair for a little bit longer? Absolutely, it can. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't appear to be too cheap. It looks like you can't get Rogaine over in the UK, but
Rogaine It's called I think it's called Regain in
Regain.
the
It's
UK.
about 40 quid for 3 bottles.
Yeah.
So not too bad, I suppose, that one.
Yeah.
And then this is the harshest of all. So
This is
it's
the creme de la creme.
well, firstly, this is I might not be able to show this on YouTube. I might have to pixelate this out in a minute. But so there used to be something called hair plugs. I believe that's not in. They don't practice that anymore. Now I'm just going to bring up this picture, and it's brutal. Oh God! So this is here where they punch
oh my goodness
4mm holes into your scalp, and I'm guessing they relocate the hair in order to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, if ever you needed a picture of just how much going bald can affect a guy's confidence and the lengths that the guys are willing to go to fix the problem, that's it right there. It's
these luckily
I'll get rid of that.
Yeah, luckily that sort of technique is outdated, thankfully. But again, it shows you the lengths that people were going to, like you mentioned, to kind of to get this done. And in fact, I've got an interview tomorrow with a guy who has had something similar to that, back sort of when he was 18. I think he's in his 50s now. Very much like that. And he had this sort of hairline constructive, and they call it like a Ken doll hairline, where all the follicles are so sort of bunched in, and then there's a big space between the next one, like a Ken, like hair on a Ken doll. And he had that for a few years, and he ended up, it looked so bad, he had to get that removed, and it left him with a big scar across his forehead. And it just spiraled into this crazy, sort of life of different operations and ways to conceal it. The hair transplant thing, it's
well, the new one is called follicular unit extraction, which looks like, it looks like a similar procedure. I'm not sure if I can't zoom in on that picture, but it looks like a similar procedure, but just on a smaller scale. So it says here that the punch area now is between 0.7 and 1 millimeters. But still, I mean, it's
extreme, isn't it? I think it's quite extreme thing to do, having surgery. I've seen my opinion on it. There's a guy on YouTube as well called Joe Tillman, and I'd advise anyone, if if you're in that space and you kind of you are looking at hair transplants and whatnot, then definitely check out his channel, because he's very honest about hair transplants, Joe Tillman. And have I seen some brilliant hair transplants? Of course, absolutely. But for so many men as well, especially now that there's loads of places where you can get it done on the cheap, you can get it done very quick. They talk about these like hair transplant holidays, a bunch of guys going over to Turkey together in a group of 5, group discounts, just a couple of grand. And it's crazy. People, that's how they say it online. The comments on my YouTube channel, like, oh, just go to Turkey. It's only a couple of grand and you can sort your hair out. The thing with hair transplants is, say, for example, if you went for one, you would get, this bit filled in here, and a bit at the crown maybe. Well, 5 years, 3 or 4 years down the line, the hair that you've got behind it that wasn't replaced by the transplant will fall out as well. So it's this, can you continue, like, you cover that bit up, and then you got to go back a few years later and get the next bit done. It's just not the cure. I mean, it is one of the most effective ways to sort of hold on to the hair, or at least give you that appearance that you've still kind of got hair, but it's just not the cure. And I just think you're still in that balding world that I talk about, where it's still a thing. You haven't tackled the main issue, which is this worry about losing your hair. You haven't tackled it. You still sort of covered it up almost, and you're still very much in that headspace. And that's just my worry, Yeah, I can't speak personally, but yeah.
I imagine as well that with those transplants, that eventually, if it's the issue is this DHT and this hormonal process that's taking place that's causing it, surely it's only a matter of time before that happens again anyway.
Yeah. So what it is with that, the sensitivity to DHT is very much in this region. The sort of the hair around the horseshoe bit, if you want to call it. Those hair follicles are actually, they don't have this sensitivity, right? So those never fall out. They don't have that sensitivity to the DHT. So that's where they get the hair from.
Ah, right.
So,
Okay. Interesting.
so the hair that they implant will always be there. But of course, then what you can get left with is, the hair that they transplant is often spaced in between the hair that you already have. So unless you respond really well to it and you take your Propecia and your Rogaine and all of those, you do all of those things right,
As
so
well
that
as
as well as the transplant, if those things don't go well, yeah, the hair that you still had will still fall out and it will still look bad because you've just only got very thin transplanted hair then, and you just enter this world, it gets very it can get very complicated. There's all these protocols and daily routines and, like I said, follow-up operations and things like that. For me, it was never an option for me, never an option. I just knew that it wasn't gonna take away the issue that I really had, which was, worrying that my hair was falling out. There isn't a cure for this. There isn't. It's just a good way of cover, or can be a good way of kind of covering it up. But I knew I wasn't tackling the main issue that I actually had. So which is why I didn't go for it.
Yeah, it is.
And of course, the money. The money as well. Really, hair transplants can be very expensive for a good one. You can get a knockoff cheap one, 100%. But for a good one, you're talking £5,000 and up, really. And I just think, start a business with that money. Definitely. Or invest it somewhere, or, do something, really start a new course, go learn something, take some evening classes or anything like that. Build something really sort of that it can continue to grow, rather than invest that money into something that is always kind of finite. It's always got a sort of a time limit on it. It's going to regress. Put that money and energy into something that you can continue to build on, forever, really. That's
Well, we've even got the stats on that. I was looking at it before. Women care 20% about physical attractiveness and 40% about material things. Yeah. So you're focusing empirically on the wrong thing. If you've got £5,000 to spend on a hair transplant, like you've just said, then you're much better off. Spending that on investing in something.
Yourself.
Yeah. One distinction that was I skipped over before that I think is important to point out when we was looking at those figures about what do women think of guys going bald, and women were saying that they have the approval rating was something like 85% or something like that. It is important to make the distinction between bald and balding. So women were saying bald head, fine, shaved head, fine, but going bald, and especially, when we look back at things like that YouTube video where it's pretty severe and you're getting into comb over territory, that's not what women are approving of. No. I think despite that emphasis on confidence, it's okay speaking about it in the abstract, but another problem, Harry, is that some guys aren't good looking to begin with. And especially when we're talking about if we're living in a cultural paradigm where whatever the reasons are, I think there's some sort of, I think it's something to do with birth control and biology is involved in it, that women are more focused on looks nowadays. For some guys, going bald is just going to feel like making themselves even more unattractive. So one thing I'd say to you is, you're a good-looking guy. You're better looking than me. You're tall, big build. You see in the Instagram photo, 6 foot. I mean, the one prejudice it's if you're a guy and you say that I wouldn't date a girl with, say, small breasts, that makes you a shallow piece of shit. But it's perfectly acceptable for women to say that they wouldn't date a short guy, right? Yeah. So being tall is a huge thing for women, and so. You could argue, like, well, congratulations, Harry. Like, you're a good-looking guy, tall, well-built or whatever. It's not that much of a sacrifice for you to do something like that.
To lose my hair, right?
Yeah. So, do you think the advice is still universal for guys that maybe aren't so good-looking? Because some guys, I was I was probably a 6.5 at my best in my 20s, and now I'm getting down into 5, 4 territory, right?
Yeah.
If you're a guy, if you're a young guy, especially where you haven't got a girlfriend yet, and you're not great looking, and you have trouble with women because of that, surely that advice isn't necessarily universal. Maybe it's worthwhile doing everything in your power to improve your looks on that front.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, you said earlier as well, there's a few things here, does this advice of, just accept, in a nutshell, accept it and shave your head, can that work for absolutely everyone? Of course not. Of
Right.
course not. But it worked for me, and it works for millions and millions of other men, and of course, all I can do is promote the things that worked for me and the other people I know that it worked for, and hope that it can, connect with other people and help them, but can it work universally for absolutely everyone? No, of course not. I'm a big believer in, as you mentioned earlier, in that balding phase, there was kind of two questions there, right? In that balding phase, I think with all the worry and the insecurity, if you are single and you are trying to connect with women or whoever, it's very much more down to the sort of, for lack of a better phrase, the signals that you're giving off. You're going to communicate that insecurity out there. If you're feeling insecure, there's no two ways about it, absolutely. And when you, like I said before, when you go with that acceptance and you accept yourself and you shave it off, you no longer do that because you are who you are, and that's what you're communicating out there. Now, in terms of a guy who's kind of, like you said, ugly, or would consider himself ugly, or someone else would consider him ugly, it's the way I see it is, what should that guy do then? If he feels I'm ugly and it's hopeless for me, should he then just give up and just decide it's never going to happen for me? I'm just gonna completely give up and there's nothing I can do. Or should he just try whatever he can, try what he can try and see what gets him results, see what makes him feel better? I think definitely you need to work on yourself before you even, are looking for relationships and trying to connect with other people. You've definitely got to be kind of grounded and secure in yourself to have success in those areas. One of the things about going through this whole balding thing is that's often an opportunity for guys to do that. It's a difficult journey, but if you make it through it, you often learn so much about yourself, what you're really capable of. And and people, I made a video talking, how going bald young can be a good thing, but genuine, if you can make it through it, it genuinely can be, because it's an experience that you can learn so much about yourself from, and grow. You can actually grow from the experience. But yeah, this thing, I was actually talking about it in work with someone today. You talk about, like, there's all these different pills, red pill, blue pill, and I'm not sure if you talk much about that kind of thing. And this whole thing about being ugly. But I'm not the sort of person that would ever promote to someone or someone else. If you think you're ugly, or you're worrying that other people are going to think you're ugly, then you should just not try. I just really think you just do, just try everything you can and find what works for you, even if it takes you forever. I think is better than just sort of giving up, and residing to the fact that, oh, I'm ugly, no one's ever going to find me attractive, I'm never going to be able to be successful, because there's just nothing in that, there's just nothing in it. But I think each time you kind of try something new, or you learn about yourself, there can be no regret there. Even if it's a bad experience, you can learn something from it and take on to the next thing. And when it comes to looks and things like that, I even say there's no shame in guys who are trying the hair fibers, the hair system, because if all those things don't work for them, then you've always still got this option of the acceptance and shaving it off. And having done all those other things, you can commit to it even more, because once you've done it, you can know in your head, hey, I tried all those things, they didn't work for me. Those things didn't work. So I don't need to go back there. They're never going to work for me. I've tried it, and this is just what I need to stick with now. And so there's no shame in trying those things. If that's the journey, if that's your sort of hair loss journey, if you like, then so be it. That's brilliant. But I think you definitely got to try and learn from it. Have I answered the question, or?
Yeah, I think so. It's a bit of a tricky one though, isn't it? Because it's for guys that either feel unattractive or say objectively. I mean, I'm not sure that's quite the right word, but objective to the extent that women have, especially nowadays, when women do tend to be more looks focused, that maybe women have vocalized a disdain for the way that particular guy looks. He's been told he's unattractive. It's a tricky one when you're mixing it with these stats about confidence, where whether a guy, if he's going bald, like we were saying before, the balding bit is what's going to be doing you even less of a favour. If you're not a good-looking guy in the first place and you're trying to give yourself a bit of a comb over and stuff, you're going to make yourself look worse. And so there's two options. One is to just fucking shave it off, and then you're exercising that confidence and accepting yourself as who you are. But at the same time, some guys have got a little pea head. Some guys have got a pointy head. Some guys haven't feel like they've got the right head shape for it, and might feel like it doesn't suit them. And then the other option is to go the other way and be like, right, I am going to spend that money I'm going to spend $5,000 on hair transplants. I'm going to spend a shitload of money on going to the gym. And
I think if we're talking about relationships specifically, or, let's just say women, to keep it simple.
Yep.
I think, what's your goal? Because if your goal is to go out on every Saturday night, or you're on Tinder and you want as many swipes as possible, if that is your goal, that is what you are desperate to get, shag as many birds as you can, then what will you get more success with? Probably, spending all that money and putting the hair on your head. You're going to get more Tinder swipes. That is not, I wouldn't, because of the way that sort of whole ecosystem is set up is based purely on looks, purely on looks. But if you want to actually build like a lasting relationship, if you want to be fulfilled, like with someone that loves you, and is genuine, and you want to do things together, build a life together, even girlfriends, not just a quick bang and see you later, then honestly, I just don't think that the whole looks and the shaved head, the big head, the pointy head, whatever, I just don't. And yeah, you could argue, hey, you're 6 foot. That's easy for you to say. But I've spoken to enough people now, it just doesn't matter. If you can just work up enough confidence to get yourself in front of people. And I think for guys like that, if they want to ease into it, go into the club on a Saturday night, forcing yourself to go there with your newly shaved head probably isn't the answer, But if you're in work and you're like I said, you're telling people, listen, I felt so shit about this hair and I've just shaved it off and now I feel so much better, right? People are going to hear that and respect it and realize, hey, that's a guy who's getting his shit together. He's working on himself, and a decent guy. And that is how you're going to build that sort of thing, like I talked about, like a relationship that actually means something. If that is your goal, then losing your hair, no matter how sort of ugly or whatever you think you might be, it will not stop you. It will not hold you back. Yeah. Just not having hair. 100% it won't.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant distinction to make. Is the guy when guys are worrying about this is to think about what the end goal is, and I think that's a brilliant distinction. Is if you're wanting to get laid, if you're looking for something superficial, the best way to go about it is the superficial shit. But if you're looking for something deeper, then you have to look at it from a deeper perspective yourself. I think that's a perfect distinction. Definitely. And the other thing, just from that superficial perspective as well, it's sort of anecdotal, but not so much, in that over the 10 years that I was working in that industry, I have met thousands of girls, and some of these are genuinely the most physically attractive women you could ever imagine meeting in your life. And one thing I did quite early on, which was, this is going back all the way to the early 2000s, before people had smartphones, is the girls would carry around like a pack of Kodak pictures like of the boyfriends or of the girls going
yeah.
on the nights out. So this is back when people carry a printed photograph around in their handbag, all the old Polaroids as well. And I'd say to some of these girls, like, they talk about the boyfriend, which, you know, it's a bit fucked up that they're working in that industry and they've got a boyfriend, but whatever.
Yeah.
And you'd say, have you got a picture of him? And they'd show me a picture of the boyfriend. And very, very rarely was it that a girl would pull out a picture of a guy that was the equivalent in looks to her. And that pattern repeated the entire decade. I'd do it all the time, sometimes just as a little bit of a confidence boost for myself. Like, let's have a look at your boyfriend. And almost every time, you'd be like, oh, looks really don't matter. Yeah. And most of the time it was, you know, girls would say, you'd ask them what it was they liked about the boyfriend, and they'd say, oh, he's just dead charismatic. Or another one that came up a lot was, it's just something about him. Just something about him. Girls say that a lot. And it's almost like, I think when a girl says there's something about a guy, it's what she's implicit in that statement is, he's clearly not good looking. So that's clearly not something I can say that attracted me to him. But there's, you know, something about him. And the only thing that something about him can be is his personality. Because if it was something less, something more obvious than that, it's the fact that he's rich. Some girls did say that, oh, he's fucking loaded. But when girls say, oh, he's charismatic, he's confident, he's just something about him, that has to be based on personality. And that happened
Definitely,
more often than not.
Yeah. And if you just really quickly, if you flip it and if you say, for example, one of the girls was married or even, you know, long-term boyfriend, and you said, oh, you know, so why are you guys together or whatever? You know, if she just turned around and said like, oh, he just looks good, you'd think she was a bit, you just wouldn't think it was right. It just doesn't sound right, does it? Oh, he just looks nice, so we're, you know, that's why he's my boyfriend. For a short-term thing, fine. For a short-term thing, that would be fine. But if someone was married to someone and they just said, oh yeah, he just looks nice, you'd think they were odd, you know? You'd be like, oh, okay, that's a bit weird, you know?
So the thing that we need to close on, I think, is that one thing I've always preached, Harry, is that on this idea of being decisive about something, that it demonstrates confidence, and that's a great starting point. And one of the things that I've always preached on this podcast, something that I learned from Tim Pitchell from a very early interview, was that you don't need to feel like doing something in order to do it. That emotion follows motion, not the other way around. So if you sit around waiting to feel like the right moment, you're going to be waiting forever. And what you should do instead often is just take action, and the emotion, the positive emotion, will follow from that. So with that in mind, Harry.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm fucking doing it.
Oh, no way. This is fantastic. Get it done.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't know coming into this conversation whether or not I was going to do it. But while I'm just sat here, I'm looking at myself in this stark light, and I'm talking about it to you, and it's getting worse. It's getting ridiculous, and I'm preaching all these various opinions about traditional masculinity and being decisive, and if it's got to the point where you're not cool with it anymore, just fucking shave it off. And then it's very hypocritical of me to sit here doing that and then be like, well, it doesn't apply to me. You guys do it, I'll do it later. So I'm just going to fucking do it, you know.
Here it goes.
What I'm going to do first is, just for a bit of a laugh, actually, I better cover my keyboard up before I get all loads of air in it. I'm going to give myself, I'm going to shave all this middle bit off to show what I'd look like if you just let it go. If I just let it go, and how much of a twat I'm going to end up looking. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to do this. I don't know if you want to maybe do a bit of shameless plugging while I'm chopping away here. Tell people about your websites, your websites, your different projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is a good surprise, man. I'm glad you're going for it, but no, this is
Wait, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle hearing you while I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's all right. I just keep talking about my. I was just saying we started at the start. If there are guys who are listening to this, you know, and you don't know where to start with this hair loss stuff, then go onto my website or follow me on Instagram is one of the best things you can do, at Bold Cafe. And follow the link.
Sorry.
It's done the first part. I could see it's going to look good already, though,
Sorry, Harry, very ignorant of me. You keep plugging away.
It's okay. But yeah, follow the Instagram, and, on there, basically what we do, one thing we didn't touch on so much is it started off with my story. And now basically we get so many guys that come on and they talk about their whole journey with it and, why they shaved it off. We've got other episodes similar to this one. I call them the live episodes, where a guy will come, we'll do like an initial chat, and they'll kind of just talk about how they're feeling with the whole, hair situation currently. And they'll go away and shave it off and film that. And we get back in touch for a bit of post reaction.
Right, I'm going to interrupt you. Oh my God. Hey up, here we go. Hey up.
But with the beard, you've got that sort of warrior, very Viking look.
So
it takes some skill, shaving your own head takes some skill.
Oh no, I'm going to have to go away and do it properly after this, but
yeah.
I'm already not worried. Let me try and get this bit here, because I'm trying to get this male pattern, because I genuinely want to see what it looks like.
Yeah. See how the full horseshoe would be looking. This is actually a good thing to do, because if you can get comfortable with it like that, how it's looking like that, then you've literally got nothing to worry about. And rocking a shaved head is just the cherry on top, because it's the best look.
Right, bring it back. There we go.
Yeah.
That'll do, just as a...
So, what? Did you...
What a twat.
But it doesn't... I don't know what to say. I wouldn't say it looks terrible, to be honest. It just,
Do you reckon I can get away with that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can just about hear you, yeah.
What I was saying is, if you could be comfortable with that, if you go out in the street next time safely, do your shopping with that haircut, honestly, the confidence is unreal. And rocking a shaved head or anything like that would never, ever be an issue, So it's good. What you're doing right now is good. It's good to see yourself like that, because you can fully commit.
Yeah, this is going to sound a bit contradictory, but if I shave that, I'm not going to do it, but just as an experiment, if I shave that bald on top, so that I had that horseshoe sort of hair at the back, I genuinely wouldn't. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't. But then it makes me think, what have I been sort of clinging on to all that time? Do you know what I mean? But I'm gonna keep going. I might end up doing this as a bit of a time lapse thing, and then what we're gonna do, Harry, is I'm gonna tell my missus to come down, because she didn't even know what this podcast was about today, and so.
Oh really?
And of course I'm gonna blame you for it. So
yeah, do it.
Right, so let's. I'm going to carry on. I don't know if you want to carry on talking about anything in particular, or whether
I'll say a little bit, but you go for it, and then I'll just watch. Right. But yeah, if this makes it to the podcast, with the channel, what we do is I cover loads of different topics, but one of the best things that I like to do now is just help share other people's stories. And if you go onto the YouTube channel, which is the same, Bold Cafe. Yeah, and you're struggling with this, you're guaranteed to find someone. We've had enough guys on the podcast now. You're guaranteed to find someone with the same sort of look, the same race, the same age as you, someone that you can relate to, probably got the same habits, in terms of covering up the hair loss, whether you're wearing hats all the time or the hair fibers and things like that. And I'd just say, even if you're someone who is in that area, but also, maybe you're taking Propecia, or you've had a hair transplant and you're not happy with it, or you're doing the Rogaine and things like that, then, just be open to it, because there's no one, definitive right way to do it. Like I said earlier, sometimes you need to do those things, enjoy the hair for a few more years, and get to the point where you kind of decide, okay, I had a good run, enough's enough with this, and you shave it off then. But, yeah, you've heard me speak about it here on this podcast, and you'll hear me say loads about it over on my channel. But I just honestly think, if this is a struggle for you, if you're struggling to deal with losing your hair as a guy, dig deep, and if you can accept it and shave it off, which is just a brilliant clean look, then you can genuinely move past it, and you can be 100% happy and do all the things you want to do. And Danny's here. It's coming together. The look's coming together.
Right, hang on a minute. Let's. There we go. Hey yo.
You can see it coming in. You can see the look coming in.
Hey, you know what? I mean, I'll leave the bat for now. I'll finish it off properly later. But
yeah,
you can like it.
You can see how it's going to look, and it looks good. It looks good.
Yeah, you know what? I look like I could beat someone's ass now. I've gone from.
Yeah. You think you look a little bit younger?
Do you reckon? Well, I'll have to. I think the other thing it's done is it's made the beard look massive.
Yeah.
So I'll have to trim that down a little bit as well. But
I need to do mine.
The thing is, as well, you can't really see it on camera because I guess some people are going to have looked, like my barber is going to have looked at this and thought, well, you weren't. It wasn't that bad anyway. Some guys are going to look at the amount of hair I had and say, "Fucking hell, if I had that much hair, I'd be happy."
Yeah.
But I just see. I'm glad I did that because what this has brought up now is a bit of one question that might have been missing. Is you see, I had an impetus for doing that. So I've been thinking about doing it for a while. It wasn't a daft little stunt. I genuinely didn't know. I charged the thing up, but I remember prepping myself and saying, "Look, just because you have this conversation with him, doesn't mean you have to do it at the end." Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to force myself to do it for the sake of views or anything like that. Like, if at the end of it I've taught myself into it, I'm going to do it. But there's been there was an impetus there for me, and part of that impetus was I knew it'd be quite funny. We're not live now; it's just me and you, right? Yeah. And so it's we've been talking, throwing ideas back and forth. It's a bit of banter. It's like, oh fuck it, let's do it. I knew it'd be quite amusing to do. But that's the idea of there being some sort of impetus there.
Yeah.
But there's going to be guys that haven't got that same impetus. For some guys, there's not the educational value to shaving the hair off like there is for me or for you, or the entertainment value. And so, what have you got any advice as far as that, as providing impetus for a guy that's hasn't otherwise got any?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I know can help people is to actually focus on the negative sides of losing your hair, in a sense of think about that, like, and not just think, like, really sit down, put the phone away, get out a pen and paper, and write down how many times a day are you thinking about your hair? How many times a day are you checking the mirror or taking pictures of it? What right now, what is it stopping you from doing? Because this really affects people. It stops people doing sports. They don't go swimming anymore. They get invited on a night out and they can't wear a hat into the nightclub, so they just don't go. They'll go home, and put all of those things that have happened to you because your hair's been falling out and you've been feeling shit about it. Write a fat list, and think about it. How much longer do you want those things to carry on? What else are you going to miss out on in all these years to come? And really think about it. And I'm not saying that it's as easy as, oh, hey, you just shave it off and all that stuff is going to go away. For a lot of people, that is a thing that can happen. Maybe the initial thing of shaving your hair off, you're going to have to replace that void, all that worry, all that mental energy that you were putting into your hair. You're going to have to replace it with something. Otherwise, you're just going to start worrying about, I'm bald now, right? So that's when I talk about, better habits, write goals down and start achieving them, start doing things to replace all of that worry, more positive things. And as all of those things build and you realize, oh, hang on a minute, I'm doing all of these good things for myself, and now I don't have hair to even worry about, you move on from it. And for some people, it could take a day, 2 days, 3 months. But as that stuff builds and as you get out there into, in front of people, and like I said earlier, you see your colleagues and you're honest with them and you get good feedback from it, your girlfriend, or you meet a girl and she loves it, she loves the shaved head. She thinks it's brilliant that you've done it for yourself, and you're confident in your look now, and you've made that choice. As all of those things start to build, you can genuinely get to a place where it's not even a thing. You never even worry for a second about the fact that you don't have hair, and that is one big thing that can help people 100%. And what you just did then, right? We didn't dig too deep into how you feel about it. If it's even been a thing for you, maybe it hasn't been, worrying about it, but find people who have had those worries, or, whether it's my channel. This is why I have the YouTube channel, reach out to them, reach out to me, or speak to someone who can relate to it. And get real with it, talk it out, bring it into the real world. And when you put it out there, you realize it's something you can actually deal with. And be inspired by it. This isn't the stuff that I talked about, how I shaved it off and I felt way better. Literally hundreds of people that have done it on my Instagram and YouTube channel. There's no facade. It's no smoke and mirrors. It's genuine guys from all over the globe, different walks of life, who have done it and are living it, and it can happen for you. So if you're in that space where you're worrying about it, genuinely know that this is a great option. It's a great way to tackle it, and you can get there too, 100%.
Yeah, two things that I'll add to that sort of immediately spring to mind is, one is one reason you should maybe jump into it and just do it is, when it comes to making these decisions, we sort of inadvertently convince ourselves that it's a final decision, that once you've done it, there's no going back. Now, ironically, the only thing there's no going back on is the fact that you're going bald, because that is going to get progressively worse, and that's sort of inevitable. But just doing what I've done now, just whacking the clippers out and getting rid of it, if it doesn't suit you, you can grow your hair back. It's not a permanent solution, and you could grow it back so that you could start using the fibers or whatever, or one of the many other options that are available. But the other thing,
try it.
More important than that, which has happened to me, which is a bit of a surprise, is you might surprise yourself, and I quite like it. I mean,
it looks good.
I didn't think
the thing. It looks good. It's a genuinely great look, and you probably thought, you even mentioned it earlier, like, oh, people say to me, oh, you rock the look really well, like I won't look as good as that. You shouldn't aspire to look like me, because you will find yourself, when you shave it off, that it's your own good look. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's science behind it, but 99% of guys worry it's going to look shit, and 99% of them do it and realize it looks bloody brilliant. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it's a thing, and you've just experienced it.
Yeah, and there's, I'm thinking, I'm almost coming up with the benefits to it now that I hadn't even sort of thought about before. So just one of them is, I've always been self-conscious, like going on the school run, picking my little lad up when I wait outside school for him. Whenever it's windy, I'm very conscious of,
Oh, so that is the thing.
It was a thing, but not that, not necessarily that. It wasn't that there was a particular flap going up that was exposing the baldness. Just that my hair was of a style that if the wind blew it out the way, it just looks scruffy and ridiculous. And so I'm constantly, trying to, because you don't want to embarrass your kid at the school gates. You know what I mean? We all like to think of ourselves as one of the cool dads or whatever. Another thing is, I haven't worn baseball caps. I've got a load of new era baseball caps. I used to love wearing them. When my hair was a lot shorter, I used to have is it called like a crew cut? Something like that. But when you've got a hairstyle, you can't wear hats because you have to leave them on all the time. And so now I can get dust off those old baseball caps and start wearing those again. And another one, there's obviously the money saving thing, but I'm very, it might not come across with these interviews and stuff, but I'm very awkward socially. And for me, going to the barbers is it's a very awkward experience. I change my barbers all the time, because if I pull up outside a barber's and there's more than one person queuing, I can't bring myself to go in.
Really?
Yeah, I can't. I need to go straight in, sit down, get it done. And I don't. And it's not out of ignorance. I'd rather they didn't speak to me either. I wish there was a barber that was called the silent barber or something, where it was implicit in the name. You go in, we don't talk, and that's you know, that monthly occurrence of going to the barbers and engaging in small talk, and that I find particularly awkward. If I keep this now, I've been emancipated of that, and that's genuinely makes me feel good that I don't have to do that anymore, because that was a hindrance for me.
And it just interesting for me, are these things that you thought of before, or are they only just sort of come into light now that you've kind of done it?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of them before. It was just doing it now. I was thought of school gates, my hair flapping about, making me look a twat. Get me baseball caps back out, which are like they're instant different hairdos that you pop on every time you put a new one on, and and then the barbers, keep going to the barbers, because it's not a positive experience for me. So I'm glad to be done with that. But finally, let's see what the missus thinks.
Yeah.
So I'll give her a quick bell now.
What's her name?
Leanne. Hiya, will you just come down here for a sec? No, don't worry about anything like that. Is Noah asleep? The kids all down? All right, okay. Yeah, no, come on. I need you to help me out with something in a minute. All right, see you in a sec. I just lied to her. You're not recording, are you? No.
I don't know why I was whispering. I felt like I needed to whisper. She'll probably say, well, why haven't you shaved the back?
Yeah, well, she can do that. Wait a minute. Right, you don't need to come on camera because I don't want, all these. Did you hear that, everybody? Where are you? How did you see me?
I can see you in the
What do you think? Now, I've done it on camera, so she's doubled over laughing so far.
You need to explain that you're going to shave the back eventually.
Yeah, I'm going to shave the back, obviously.
I'm just shocked that you've done it.
Right, no, genuinely, you've these tears in your eyes. So, what are these tears? Are these tears of laughter or shock. Or disappointment?
Shock. You look fine.
Does it look good? Ask her how it looks.
She says I look fine. That's not great, is it?
No, you don't look. I'm just shocked. You look different.
I look different.
Yeah, different.
But do we approve of it?
Yeah.
But there's, like we were saying before,
Apart from the bits at the back that you've missed.
I haven't missed them. I've just left them on purpose because I was trying to be expeditious about it. But I like it, me. The more I keep catching myself, and I'm like,
you will.
Looks all right.
You see yourself in the mirror.
Your beard needs neatening it up now.
Yeah, I need to neaten the beard up because it's. I think proportionality is a problem. So whereas I had a bit of hair on my head, and so it made me get away with a beard. Shorter hair's made it, like the other thing. It's like my beard's grown an inch.
Now.
Yeah. So I need to sort of cut that down.
No,
but
it looks good. It does. Now that I've acclimatised.
that was a great reaction, but you thought that before, like you thought the hair was fine. I had a bald patch. It was receding, and then I had grey in the sides, and you were fine.
A bit of salt and pepper, you know that.
She likes a bit of salt and pepper. But you see, for me, this is just like I was saying before, that girls are very forgiving.
Yeah, she probably didn't even think about it. It wasn't a thing for her. You know, she probably looked at your hair and it wasn't a thing. She would never be, if you went to go pick up your son together, she'd never be like, oh, is Danny's hair going to start flapping around in the wind?
Yeah, totally.
You know? But you'd think it, but she never would.
Yeah.
You know, because it just isn't a thing for her.
I didn't even, the bald patch, that wasn't a thing for me. You used to always point it out, but that was never. I never.
Wait, can she hear what I'm saying or no?
And the receding.
Can you hear what he's saying?
Yeah, the receding, like.
Oh, okay.
That's your thing, not my thing. I thought your hairline was fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But that's what we're talking about. It's very strange that for me it was a thing. Like we're saying, I'm not on Tinder. I'm not out there trying to get laid. Do you know what I mean? I'm in a relationship, a long-term one. We've got kids. I'm not going anywhere. So who am I trying to impress? Do you know what I mean? But then I guess, I don't know, I guess you still want your, even in a long-term relationship, you still want your missus to want to smash the ass off you, don't you? So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. But I can tell you've calmed down now.
I knew you was going to do something like that at some point. I just didn't expect it right now.
But yeah, it's ultimately, it's not going to be a thing either way for you, is it? In the morning, you wake up and yeah it's not going to be a thing.
See, I like you with hair, but I like you without it. Like, you look good. Like I say, the beard needs neatening up, but you look good.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Good
so
stuff.
She's not buggering off with the kids, so
no, it gets the approval.
Yeah.
Good.
So, well, there we go. I think that's I mean, I'm not sure whether that reaction was quite the conclusion that we needed, but but you see, the thing is as well, for a lot of guys, when it comes to like relationships and stuff, the people that they're worried about getting a girlfriend and stuff, they're going to be meeting these girls looking like this in the first place. It's not going to be, I've had my hair like this for the past 10 years or however long.
No,
and then
a clean slate.
Yeah.
It's a clean slate, It's I have taught it's the you 2.0. It's a new you, a more confident and more secure you. Just get out there. These people aren't going to be saying like, oh, but how did you look 2 years ago? It's just you. Just to be you and go all in with it, and it like I said before, it won't hold you back, And that was a good reaction. That was a genuine reaction.
Yeah.
Shocked. Yeah, because it's a different look. Oh, wow, what have you done? But then as you are, when you start to, you check a few different angles and, you go down the mirror, brush your teeth, you be like, oh, yeah. And you say like, yeah, you know what? It does look good. And
I'm into it.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Right. Well, there we go, guys. So we've done 2 hours, 10 minutes there. So we've been comprehensive. We've done all the different aspects. We've covered the evolution, the various treatments available. I know you've, I already let you give a long plug while I was.
Little plug, yeah.
But just one final one, Harry. Let everybody know where to go to learn more about you and your channel. Yeah,
it's at Bowl Cafe on YouTube and Instagram. Those are the best places to get in touch. Like we said, we share loads of stories from loads of different guys, but on the Instagram and the YouTube. I do my best to get back to everyone who sort of gets in touch and DMs me, a bit of one-on-one. But if you're looking, somewhere to start, then definitely, hit head over to the website, which is linked everywhere on those socials. Read the ebook and get started. Read it, have an open mind, and we'll get you through it. 100%.
Right, well, there we go, everybody. That'll do for now. I'm going to go get the missus to shave this little doormat that I've got left on the back of my head.
Finish it up. Nice.
Right, Harry, thank you very much for joining me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been brilliant. Great to meet you, and well done for going for it, man. It looks great.
Thank you very much.